comfortably. I'm not sure I am, but I'm doing the best I can to make it look like I'm sitting comfortably. I've got something sticking in my back. But no backstabbing here. Oh, that was a tenuous link. I'm not sure what I was linking it to. Later on, I'll be talking about the Leeds City scandal. Yes, you heard it right, Leeds City. That's what they were known as back then. Or was it a different club? Not too sure. But be digging into Steve Stammer's biography of the club a bit later on. But first of all, of course, the new thing at Arsenal is 2-0 to the Arsenal. There'll be a fanzine called that one day, no doubt. It'll be an internet jobby though, because of course nowadays, well, apart from the Gooner, which never seems to go out of fashion, it's a difficult time for fanzines. Although I have to say, Highbury Hide's pretty good as well, and we're well blessed as far as fanzines are concerned at Arsenal. But the Gooner, for obvious reasons, being my favourite. But my favourite scoreline right now, 2-0 to the Arsenal. Let's have a look back at the game without the footage. But I did take some notes, so aren't I getting professional all of a sudden? And also the team, it sort of mirrors what the team are doing, really. Imagine this team winning 2-0 twice in a row with Fabianski in goal. That was my first point, actually. Fabianski looks like a different guy to the guy I used to call a bag of nerves. I don't know if you've seen Viz magazine, but there is a character in it called Bag of Nerves, and he used to remind me, to me, he was a dead spit of Fabianski, or vice versa, or both. But now, he's no longer a gothic double of a Viz character. He's suddenly turned into a different creature completely. It's almost like he's seen a sports psychologist or something to get him over his nerves. And suddenly we're seeing a different Fabianski. Okay, he kicks the ball out dreadfully at times, but it's getting less and less. And his distribution when he throws it is pretty good. And suddenly I've got no complaints. He's got a presence. That's the word I was looking for. He has a certain presence in goal now, which he didn't possess before. So well done, Fabianski. Keep it going. If he does keep it going, Szczesny's not going to get back in the team. But nonetheless, there were a lot of chances for Swansea in the game. We didn't close them down well enough, I didn't feel, in central midfield. That might have been partly because one of the unholy trinity was playing there, a certain Abu Diaby. Diaby didn't do that badly, but again, he doesn't really cover himself in glory either. I think it was picked out by one of the commentators from Sky that he wasn't really doing his defensive work. He wasn't, attacking work. He wasn't providing options for Arteta when Arteta had the ball, according to Barry Horn. Because when you're watching on TV, you can't see the whole game, can you? Well, Diaby didn't sort of make an angle for a pass. He didn't make any effort. He was just walking around, according to Barry Horn. I'm not going to say what I could see because I couldn't see Abu Diaby in the picture at that time because I didn't go all the way to Swansea, I'm afraid, to see the game. But on TV, you couldn't really tell that. So sometimes we've got to rely on those commentators and summarisers to give us the truth. Well, if that were true, and I'm not at all surprised to hear it, um, Diaby was remiss there. He should be doing more, shouldn't he? Particularly as a player that's just drafted in instead of Rambo. Rambo obviously did well coming on and getting an assist, setting up one of the other members of the unholy trinity, none other than Jovino. Jovino, you can't fault Jovino's effort. I've never done that, but it's just his finishing. But he's finished now. What's that? One goal in 15 games, so that counts as a striker probably if you're Arsene Wenger. So what else have I got to say on that game? Well, obviously Vermaelen was still out. Um, no surprise there because Koscielny acquitted himself really well in Munich and continued to do a good job against Swansea. I was pretty pleased with the performances all round. Arteta's still lacking a bit of discipline when it comes to conceding free kicks, but he's a man playing out of position with a captain's armband, which he didn't suspect to be having on his arm as much as what it has been lately. So there are mitigating circumstances for Arteta's indiscipline at times. Other than that, I think he's doing a great job trying to be a square peg in a round hole. Because of course we all know he's a far more attacking player than we're seeing. Because he's doing it for the team, and all credit to him for that. The Ox, of course, the Ox was well, he put in a very good performance. I was a bit worried about him of late because I thought he was it was a case of, like it is with a lot of youngsters, they go two steps forward, one backwards, and I thought we've seen a lot of the backward step from the Ox of late, but he hit the crossbar twice, unlucky not to score. And good old Nacho Monreal scoring his first goal for the club. I've been saying all along this guy's a class left back. Perhaps now more people will believe me. Obviously, it's more about his defending than anything, but defensively, I thought he was pretty sound. Uh, there were there were there was perhaps one occasion he looked like he could have done a bit of a better job, but other than that, based on what I saw, I've always thought he's pretty solid anyway, and he mostly does the easy thing, but he does the easy thing well, and I like that in a player. And we don't need loads of fancy players all over the pitch, particularly in defence. So I'm quite happy with him. Aside from that, what else have I got to say on the game? Yes, one of the unholy trinity scored. Diaby got withdrawn. Gel Surpris, as they would say in France. And Rambo, as I said, reasonable performance from him. Cazorla, pretty good. Olivier Giroud gets a lot of stick, but he had a hand in both goals. Gets an assist for one. Might have been a tad lucky the way he knocked it on for our man Nacho Monreal, but yeah, I think other than that, I think it was all good news. Obviously, Ashley Williams is being linked with us. Um, I thought he had a pretty reasonable game. He blocked a goal-bound shot from Theo at one point. So all good news at Arsenal. I was going to talk about other news surrounding the club, but one thing I will say, I read in midweek. I think it was the Daily Mirror. It was Stan Collymore. He reckoned that Jack Wilshere should get the captain's armband. I'm not sure if now was the time to do it, but certainly at the end of the season, I think Jack's, if he's going to be fit enough to play a number of games, a large number of games, I think Jack is a natural captain. So I'd go along with that. It's not very often that I agree with Collymore, but I do on this occasion. Anyway, let's get down to reading now, and it's all about the Leeds City scandal and how it affected Arsenal Football Club. The season before Chapman took over, that's Herbert Chapman, for those of you that are just picking up the plot where I left off last time, Leeds had finished second to bottom, and his first job was to see them re-elected. Of course, we're talking about Herbert Chapman's first jobs in English football before he came and took over our club. He then said about bringing in new faces and introducing a new approach to the game. The new signings included Billy Scott from Everton and Evelyn Lintott and Jimmy Spires from Bradford City. He demanded that his team entertain, and there was no shortage of action on the pitch. In February 1913, they beat both Leicester Fosse and Preston North End 5-1, with a 6-0 defeat at Stockport County squeezed in between. But there was no danger of re-election in 1913, as the club finished in 6th place. Of course, back in the day, you used to have to get re-elected if you finished too low in the league. Chapman had been bullish about the prospects of Leeds once he had sized things up. Promotion in 2 years was his bold pledge. He failed, but only just. City duly improved the next season and finished 4th, just 2 points away from promotion. There was a real feel-good factor within the club, and attendances were increasing along with income. The fans and directors were happy, a rare occurrence in any era. But the First World War was to interrupt the Chapman plan for Leeds City. Attendances went down as men signed up to fight the Germans. Chapman had assembled a formidable squad, but the absence of so many players who signed up for military duty made team selection difficult. Confronted by such disruption, Leeds finished the 1914-1915 season in 15th place. League football was then suspended for the rest of the hostilities, and Leeds were restricted to playing in regional competitions. The war effort led to the defection of more players because of a drop in wages, and that meant that Leeds had to use guest players for many of the matches. Bored and frustrated by this unfortunate turn of events, Chapman, a fierce patriot, decided to make his own contribution to his country in a time of need. He took his administrative skills away from football and took over as manager of a munitions factory at Barnbow in 1916. For 3 years, his assistant manager at Leeds, George Cripps, stood in to fulfil an administrative role at the club, while chairman Joseph Connor and another director took charge of the team. The end of the war saw the resumption of league football and a scandal at Leeds that resonated around the game. It was revealed that Leeds City had been involved in what were termed financial irregularities. Well, we've heard that term a lot since then, haven't we? Making illegal payments to guest players during the wartime matches. The sanctions were fearsome. Leeds City were expelled from the Football League in October 1919, 8 games into the new season. By the end of the year, the club had been dissolved, and 5 officials at the club, including Chapman, were banned from football for life. The players were auctioned off, and the Ellen Road ground was taken over by the newly formed Leeds United. Well, it's a good job that Chapman didn't stay banned for life from the game, otherwise things would have been very different at Arsenal. Chapman was stunned, hurt, and bitter, but ever the pragmatist, he took a job as a superintendent at an oil and coke works in Selby. Continuing bad luck saw him laid off by Christmas the following year, but 1921 brought renewed hope. The hierarchy at Division One side Huddersfield Town had been impressed with Chapman's work at nearby Leeds and wanted him back in football. They offered him the chance to be assistant manager to Ambrose Langley, an old friend of Chapman's brother Harry, and offered to back him in his appeal against the lifetime ban. The argument had more than a ring of a ring of logic. At the time when the payments were made, Chapman was doing his duty for king and country at the munitions factory. He was not involved at Leeds at the time. Their argument won the day. The ban was overturned, and on the 1st of February 1921, Chapman was appointed as the assistant to Langley. So we'll find out more about Chapman and how he gets on at Huddersfield in the next instalment of The Loose Cannon. So until the next time, I will just say I'll say a couple of words. What will I say? I'll say up the Gunners, or up the Gooners, and both, and away until the next time. Oh.